Me and my farmers, we are probably not the same religion, we are not the same region, we have a different language, but we all connected with that mission that we have to save the Himalayas, we have to save these people who have been suffering from the flash floods.
Welcome back, everybody. Rich Baker, mission-driven entrepreneur, here today with another episode of the Mission Driven Podcast. Through this episode, I am extremely honored to be joined by Neha Upadhyaya, who's the founder of Guna Organics and the Vidyapeeth Trust. She's been based in India, working on these complex issues of women's empowerment, as well as rural poverty, as well as food and nutrition. And she's built a couple of great organizations around that space. Organizations doing real work, solving real problems, and I'm really excited to have her join us today. Neha, thank you very much for taking the time. It's great to be, talking with you about the work that you're doing, the insights that you have, and your entrepreneur experience.
Namaskar, this is Neha Upadhyaya from India. I come from a family of academicians, spiritual gurus, and statesmen who have been country serving. I postgraduated from the King's College London and got a full scholarship from Government of Sweden to study sustainability and ethics. Very recently, I've been awarded as the Earth Day Network Star for my contribution to building India's first eco-village.
What is your mission and how did you get started?
I'm a flash flood victim. So by that, I mean I was visiting Ladakh, which is in the northern Himalayas, at the Tibetan Plateau. And me and my sister were caught in 2010 in the most devastating flash floods. Fortunately, we were saved by God's grace, but many things around us were completely demolished and are still being rehabilitated. And somewhere I felt that I have a debt to repay, and I really want to serve these people.
Why didn't you join a nonprofit that was already there? Why start your own organizations?
There are some good NGOs in the region, but their vision was different, and I felt their vision was linear. That's how I came up with a combination of vertically integrating organic farming and solar technology for the benefit of my farmers. And the region is very, very fragile. It's 17,000 feet above sea level. So it was important that my vision of combining these practices comes forth, as opposed to the government, which works, which has different ministries, different departments, but often they don't work together. So I wanted to I came up with a holistic solution, and I later worked with different ministries, but I stood by my concept that we have to integrate the two, and only then it could benefit the whole region.
So what were your first steps to building the organization then?
So my first step was getting the paperwork done. I wanted to be sure that the next 5 years I have my activities and deliverables laid down very carefully. So I spent some there with a friend of mine who was a lawyer, and I said, look, this is what I want to achieve, and can we please write it down in some legal terminology? So that's how I started. I wanted to work for women, so I found some women in New Delhi who were willing to work, and they had economic difficulties, so I built a small team of thoughtful, caring mothers. That's how I started with paperwork, building a small team, getting an office, designing my website. Those were the first few steps.
When you got started, did you want to have did you have a vision for what it would really look like in 5 years, and you're really focused on hitting those goals? Or were you comfortable trying things with the idea that over 5 years, you might find the right path forward?
I would be honest, I wasn't fully aware of where I'm heading to, but my heart was convinced that organic is the way forward, and using energy can help the planet. So that was my belief that kept me through that difficult time. And I met a lot of people in the journey. Initially, I did some awareness workshops. There was a group which came in from Dubai and Italy, and they were all amazing ladies. And we did a small workshop in New Delhi, and they kind of held my hand and said that, look, if you don't get some funding or get some success in 3 years, just close it. and do a job. You've still got time. And then I had somebody in my family who said, since you're starting out on your own, you don't have a boss, you have nobody to report to, make sure you have 90-day plans. So I worked on those two principles, and everything worked out for me. I got my first grant from Global Environment Facility, and although the grant was less, it was only $50,000, but it was enough for one village at the time.
How important was that recognition to your confidence or to your vision that you were hoping to achieve?
My God, when I look back, it was as if I lost 10 kgs of weight. I felt so light. It was a very overwhelming moment for me. And the 3 years that I worked on my own funds, I wasn't meeting my friends so often. I would live with my parents, and just like not spend as much on clothes, and I was completely bootstrapped, and I
Yeah.
sacrificed a lot. And when
Yeah.
that amount came, my farmers were so happy for me. They said,
Mm,
we've seen you struggle for us. Me and my farmers, we are probably not the same religion. We are not the same region. We have a different language. I'm Hindi speaking and they're Bodhi speaking, but we all connected with that mission that we have to save the Himalayas. We have to save these indigenous people who have been suffering from the flash floods. So it was a
mm.
big moment for all of us. And even the videos are so full of joy.
Do you have a vision for how many you want to go to, and how do you plan that process?
My goal for the next 7 years, I would say, is to at least reach 21 villages. It took us 9 years to get from 1 to 8, and we had the pandemic in the middle. So for the next 7 years, I want to be more fast, but not too quick,
Yeah.
because a lot of these farmers are very upset. They feel very oppressed. They feel very cheated. So they have to be handled gently.
Who are you helping, and what are the opportunities to help them, but what are also the challenges to helping them?
So I work with marginalized farmers of Ladakh. So small
Mm,
scale farmers that are mostly marginalized women farmers who belong to the scheduled tribes or the indigenous population. So those are my beneficiaries, as the Indian government calls them. They are the ones who
mm.
benefit from our work the most. And I always take their problems to the government here in
Okay.
New Delhi, the central government, and we try to come up with solutions.
How do you, I guess, from an organization standpoint, you went from 1 to 8, you hope to go to 21. You have to learn how to measure what's working and what can be improved on. So, what's your process for understanding the work you're doing? How do you measure success, and how often do you try to improve or iterate the work that you're doing?
For success, I measured it honestly with the help of external agencies, monitoring agencies, and Indian government, because I was so spiritually and emotionally involved in the process that I wasn't thinking about the outcome. But when I joined hands with a monitoring agency known as the Center for Environment Education and the Indian government, they said, oh, 33% livelihoods have been enhanced, and the apricots
Mm,
price has gone up since your interventions. 40% drudgery reduction has been measured.
yeah.
There's been reverse migration from 27 to 75 households. So I think those are the pillars which
Mm.
are very, these are some monumental victories. So those are my yardsticks for success.
So that's the big high level, how you
Yeah,
measure the organization. How do you
yeah.
measure program investments?
It's very
Mm,
difficult to quantify our deliverables, our targets. So I think
yeah.
reporting really helps. And the Indian government has these long, big templates, and I used to
Mm,
just dread looking at them. But every time I fill and report them, it's a great feeling, because it helps us really put together everything we've done. They're always trying to help us make the villages self-sustained and us self-sustained, because it's not just good to
yeah.
be on. So they're building us up that way, and
Yeah. But
so
in,
that's
in
something.
in doing those reports, then do you learn where to make improvements? Because you can say like, wow, we did a lot of good work, but we haven't really done this right. Or I guess that process, are you learning through the reporting process how to make yourselves better.
Absolutely. With every quarterly report, we understand, oh, this could have been done better, or this was too much at the time. We should
Mm.
have been easy on ourselves and the farmers. And so there's always something to look into. And we try to do something new every quarter. So there is a new value addition.
If you look back over the last 9 years, how have you grown? What are some of the lessons that you learned, skills you picked up that have really helped you grow through this time?
Yeah, that's a overwhelming question. So if I when I look back in the 9 years, I promise you, Rich, I didn't think I had the audacity to handle the kind of work that I've done. I feel very lucky that I persisted through it all. We survived the pandemic. We were profitable even in 2020, like right before the pandemic, we were profitable. So
Yeah.
persistence is definitely something that I've learned,
Hmm.
and over the years, and to be patient and work slowly. But when you're an entrepreneur, there are so many challenges. You're managing
Yeah.
people, you're managing emotions.
When you're facing a challenge that you can't solve yourself or that isn't in your team, who do you reach out to, and what are some lessons you've learned from learning to be open about the challenges you face?
So the first reaction is, as you mentioned, is to brood. So I go into space of brooding,
Yeah.
and when it doesn't help, then I'm very fortunate to have met kind people who advise me from time to time, and who very recently I joined the mentorship program of the Sherry Blair Foundation,
Okay.
and we have a kind gentleman who's based out of Singapore, but he's advising us and motivating us. So I'm very grateful to have such people.
But when you're reaching out to these people, do you have a very clear idea of how they can help you, or are they just people that you respect or know in the system and just say, "Hey, look, I'm facing some challenges. Would you help me?" Like, how do you even approach them when you need the help?
It's always a polite request,
Mm.
and it starts with gratitude, that thank you, you've helped us before. And sometimes I have to incentivize them and say that, if there's some kind of donation coming in or investment coming in, you could be a part of the company, or you could be on the board of the trust, and you could perhaps get a salary or a percentage, so that comes later.
Mm.
So this is how we try to get people together and feel responsible, so that all the load is not on my shoulders. But
Yeah.
most of the times it is.
Yeah, I mean, you're the founder. It's on you. How long did it take you to accept that you were the founder and that it was on you? Like, did you just have that from day one, or is that something you've learned over time?
I think initially when I would write founder, and when I came up with the name and the logo,
Mm.
I sort of felt that yes, this is my thing. And
Yeah.
it was actually when I went for the sustainability course in Sweden. We did a lot of reflection programs,
Yeah.
and we were taught to sort of detach ourselves. And that was the first time I was away from my cause. So this was in 2017 again. So after 3 years, I was away from the villages, I was away from my desk. So I gained the confidence that yes, the organization can do without me. I don't have to worry so much. And, the organization has to grow, and the founder's role has to be, not as important as, contributing to the community and building the team and the revenue. So that's the confidence I gained, and that's one thing I share with a lot of younger entrepreneurs, that
Mm.
take breaks. When you take breaks, it gives you the confidence to not be so.
So, if you think back over the last 9 years of being a young female founder, would you
Yes,
do it again? Like, and if so,
yes.
what would you tell that young Neha that she should be prepared for on this path?
On this path, young Neha should have been prepared for balance. She should not have been afraid to not meet her friends when finances were low. All my focus, like my finances, my my sleep time, my time of exercise. Like I gave everything to my cause,
Mm,
so that's something I shouldn't have done.
mm,
But many trapped organizations and individuals have to go through that. I think if I had navigated this better, uh,
yeah.
I think I would be happier. So I never stepped out of my comfort zone so much. And if you see, all the support that we've got is from governments, is from the British government, Swedish government, Indian government. So I think one should try and step out of their comfort zone and not be afraid to, look like a fool even if you have to. Like,
So, speaking of getting out of your comfort zone, why do you view entrepreneurship as your path going forward when I'm sure that you could do so much more scalability through a
yeah.
larger organization?
In my capacity as an entrepreneur, I have been able to unleash my creativity and my unique potential. If I were to take this to the government initially, without the first model village being successful, or to the
Right.
corporate, I'm pretty sure they would not have taken me seriously.
I've been in this space for 20 years. I've done all
Mm,
this work as an entrepreneur, but part of me is thinking maybe I need to take all this and drop it into something that has larger potential. And I
yeah.
don't have an answer yet. I'm really thinking through this. So I'm thinking like, if you're going from 8 to 21, I mean, it's great, but it's not solving the problem. So how can we take the amazing work that you've done to scale differently?
When one works with large scale organizations or with the governments, yes, definitely there's a scale to report, but the quality sometimes does is not at par.
Mm,
I've seen the Indian government or the UN or like large scale organizations, they'll work on one thing. That is the problem I have. Those are the only two issues I have with
mm,
working with the UN or with the government in order to expand, at a faster speed. I could be wrong, but
yeah,
working in a linear manner, and where most of the money is going to the salaries and the
mm,
looking after the infrastructure.
sure.
So definitely I think when we talk of working on a holistic note and delivering quality, I think somewhere it gets diluted.
So okay, so first off, so then in your mind, what is the power of entrepreneurship or of entrepreneurs to solve these challenges? Like in your mind, what makes entrepreneurs special and what makes this mission worthwhile through all the challenge, through all the pain, through the impact? Like what makes this journey unique for entrepreneurs and what should they know going forward?
I think what makes the journey unique for all of us is the belief and in our concept, the belief in oneself,
Mm,
and and like with our work we set an example that meaningful work, good positive impacts is possible. And if you believe in something, there are people who will believe in it eventually, and there will be a knock on effect in our environment, in our society, for the generations to come. And I've already, only in 9 years, I've seen it in India. Uh, we were successfully able to build the first eco village. We had
mm,
7 more villages who wished to partner with us, who were earlier totally convinced with the idea of urea and dipping the apricot in sugar and color. We've stopped all of that. And that
mm,
was going on for 60 years. And we were able to
mm.
change in 9 years. So these are some changes which one cannot, I personally feel, an individual is not always encouraged to deliver. As an entrepreneur, if you have an idea which is a strong belief, and so you can really drive that change, and that's something that keeps one going.
So, speaking of keeping on going and driving the change, if you were
Mm.
talking to a young, aspiring entrepreneur,
Yeah.
what two or three pieces of advice would you give them to get a little bit further along in their path?
Yes, I think the first is the most important, which I neglected or I couldn't manage, is your health, friends, and family. I used to work weekends. I didn't take vacations for 2 years. Please don't do that. Yes, I think one thing I learned is to work with people you don't like. That's That's a very solid advice I learned. As an entrepreneur, sometimes when you're getting praise and when you're getting awards and money, you get too convinced in your own ideas. But it's very important to join hands with people you don't like, people who don't agree with you, are not in your control, and there are circumstances and situations. And I think if you're very proud of your origin and country and who you're serving, it helps you get through those difficult times.